Death tolls in Afghanistan have been climbing, turning July into the deadliest month on record for both U.S. and British troops as American forces are surging into Helmand province. The initial violence is not unexpected, but the new commanders of the U.S. mission say success will be measured in terms of local sentiment, not in ammunition, as the Marines move to reclaim ground from the Taliban. It's a hearts and minds campaign that's actually being waged on both sides of the border. In Afghanistan, that mission falls to men in uniform who will build ties with the locals and to the civilian support groups tasked with building infrastructure. But in Pakistan, there's a full-on media campaign that's being waged by the state.
The state is bringing to bear all its resources, both in terms of radio, television, and public statements by government officials, military officials, to shape public perception and use the budding anti-Taliban sentiment within society to its advantage and garner that support that Islamabad needs to be able to pull off an effective counterinsurgency campaign against the Taliban.
Although parts of the campaign question the religious concepts the Taliban espouse, Islamabad's media offensive began to emerge only after the collapse of a Sharia for peace deal a few months ago, which presaged the Pakistani military campaign in the Swat Valley district and surrounding areas. That offensive is now beginning to spread to parts of the Northwest Frontier Province and the federally administered tribal areas, targeting specific Taliban factions that are seen as threats to the state, and particularly to the military, which remains the glue that holds Pakistan together as a country. With as many as 2 to 3 million Pakistanis displaced by the fighting, and some of them beginning to return to their former homes, Buhari says it's vital for the government to take on this kind of public perceptions campaign. On the other side of the issue are statements by al-Qaeda leaders blaming the government for the suffering of the people.
It's a back and forth, and it's a tug of war between the state and the militants. And in between are these internally displaced people, especially if given the situation with the Pakistani economy. These internally displaced people pose a liability for the state, and this is something that they have to deal with. And this is why all efforts are being placed in getting these people back to their homes. And the big problem is that the services like electricity and water supply and all of that have not been restored to where people can go back to their homes. People don't have homes to go back to. So this is going to be a slow process and something that the Pakistanis will have to deal with in a very careful way, because if not, then you're leaving this as a potential pool of recruits for the Taliban, or at least an issue that they can exploit.
Pakistan is riddled by political and economic problems, as well as social complexities. But the mounting casualties caused by Taliban strikes in Pakistan give this campaign some chance for success, though just how much is uncertain.
It all depends upon the stability, the political stability in the country, which, despite nascent successes that the state has seen against the Taliban, is a major concern. Political instability is historically hardwired into the Pakistani system, and the current situation is no exception. The current government is very weak and has its problems with the judiciary and the army and the opposition. So it all depends. I mean, if this government, the current setup, continues, then we can expect additional success. But if this setup is somehow disturbed, then pretty much all bets are off.
In the meantime, the psychological campaign is impacting Pakistan's relations with neighboring countries and with the United States.
The Karzai government is very pleased because even though the Pakistanis are not targeting the Afghan Taliban per se, just by going after the Pakistani Taliban, it's improving the security situation, or has the potential to improve the security situation on the Afghan side. So they're pleased with it, but they'd like to see more, and this extended to their rebels, the Afghan Taliban. In contrast, the Indians find it very difficult now to make the case that the Pakistanis are using this opportunity by going after the Swat and the Waziristan Taliban to sideline, or if you will, separate the Kashmiri militants that fight India. This has been a long-standing complaint on the part of New Delhi, and now with the United States satisfied by the Pakistani moves internally, the Indians feel that, their voice is not being given enough attention.